From inside out, first the black ball in the center of the figure on this page is the super supreme brain. Second, the second ball is the alpha nebula produced by the brain. Third, the balls on the perimeter of the nebula are 9 ether egg balls. Fourth, the space that holds the small balls, or space for orbiting space. Fifth, the dotted area is chaos matter being used up. Be this as it may, the ball of the sun, which was the immediate cause of life to the world, was supposed to be rolled across the sky by a gigantic beetle, who was at a very early period identified with Khepera, the creator and the father of the gods. Listen to vacuum, space, sound right reasoning. It should be equal stood that the beetle is myself, vacuum slash space slash pa, and matter. The blackness of the dung beetle is space, and the matter that I space give room to gestate, and my space is darkness. I space germinate all things. Vacuum space is the father of all. Listen to sound right reason. Now back to the personification of the Almighty, the all in all called infinite, eternal, absolute nature, and the one supreme being. Infinite space is vacuum and blackness of darkness, germinates persons and things, like conception in the darkness of the womb and films in the blackness of the camera. Vacuum and matter are opposites, because vacuum is nothingness and matter is somethingness, and the two are opposites in the couple of eternity and nobility. So one must be the male husband and father, and other must be the female wife and mother, because matter, the mother, the female, is the one who gestates the offspring. As vacuum, the father, the male, germinates them. Let it be remembered always, and let it be known. Introduction to the Nature Book 3, page 21 of the PDF. Listen to sound right reason. It is no coincidence that the word space has the letters PA in it, and the word matter has the letters MA in it. Of course, Pa stands for father and Ma stands for mother. Brain newts omnibazole, by the way of vacuum, gives matter the power to produce the male energy and principle called semen or sperm, the impregnating fluid of the male species. And this means that vacuum is the basic male principle according to the marriage vows. A husband and wife are one, and in this case, time is their keeper and the laws of nature are their marriage vows. According to the laws of nature, infinite vacuum, the husband, and infinite matter, the wife, have always been and will forever be in an eternal embrace. Space holds matter and they are embracing, with eternal time as their eternal keeper in life, the smart circle of cosmos, and in death the smart circle of chaos, by the laws of nature and brain newts. Nobility begins with this royal couple in endlessness. Let it be remembered always, and let it be known. Introduction to the Nature Book 3, page 22 of the PDF. Listen to sound right reason. Vacuum and matter, this embracing eternal couple of nobility, creates all persons, places, and things by the help of the keeper eternal time. Of course, eternal means no beginning and no ending, which is true for space, matter, and time, the triad of absolute nature. It is fact that space, vacuum, is infinity, matter is totality, and time is eternity, and the threesome are one and inseparable. The definition of time is the continuity, the continuation of the existence of space and matter, and this makes time the keeper of space and matter. Of course, space is infinite vacuum. Matter is anything and everything that occupies space, and NoopooH, via Noon, informs us all. The closer our relationship with nature and the better we identify ourselves with our Maker, Almighty Nature, the better we all will be, mentally, intellectually, spiritually, physically, materially, and emotionally. Let it be remembered always, and let it be known. Introduction to the Nature Book 3, page 22 of the PDF. Here is the gematria. The word vacuum and Khepera. All nines. I, vacuum space, am 9 in space at all times. I space am perfect. 9 in original space, 9 in original matter, 9 in original time. the positive, the hair, reverse for 6. Nature of Nature, Book 1, page 154. The opposite and reverse of 9 is 6. 9 in space, 9 in matter, 9 in time. The helix solenoid Ethiopian race, symbol of the race's originality, power, uniqueness, and identity. Nature, Nature, Book 3, page 32. The first member of the triad of existence is vacuum and perfect, for it cannot change and cannot be changed, because it is nothingness. Space, infinite vacuum, is the unmoved mover, that is, it facilitates the movement of all by offering no resistance to the movement of matter and can attract matter by suction, plus the fact that space cannot move and cannot be moved. Let it be remembered always and let it be known. Nature, Nature, Book 1, page 33 in part. Listen to vacuum, space is sound right reason. My, vacuum's hieroglyph in ancient Kemet, Egypt, is the viper F19. Egyptian hieroglyph horned viper, phonogram, F determinative, log of father. Before we get into Noon's explanation, here is the etymology of the word viper. Viper, early 15C from Old French vipere, earlier in English as vipera, directly from Latin vipera, viper, snake, serpent, contraction, vivipara, from vivis, alive, living, pair, bring, forth, bear, in common with many. Snake species in cooler climates, in most cases the viper's eggs are kept inside the mother until hatching. Let's continue. Father of the gods. The Egyptians believed that the beetle was an incarnation of Khepera and imagined some resemblance between the ball of food for the larva, which is rolled over the ground, and the ball of the sun, which was the visible expression of the life of Khepera, and was rolled across the sky by him. They thought that if they made figures of the beetle of Khepera and wore them, they would attract the power of the god to them and secure his protection for their bodies, both when living and when dead. Remember, vacuum is a suction or attraction. Ptah, or Ptah, Lord of Life, was one of the oldest and greatest gods of Memphis, and local tradition asserted that he was the creator of the universe. His worship in one form or another goes back to the beginning of the dynastic period. He was identified with Temu or Re and was called the very great God who existed in primeval time. The father of fathers, i.e. the great-great-grandfather of the gods, the father of beginnings, the creator of the egg, of the sun and moon. Side note, following are quotes from the nature books written by Afro Unu, Africa's first, that support the ancients in the Book of the Dead. Listen to reason, original reason, the creative energy. Listen to reason. Original reason, the creative energy who grew the universe of nature and the original persons and things of them into form and life is nous, pronounced nous, in the American English Dictionary. The science and proper name of nous is NoopooH, pronounced NoopooH. And indeed, NoopooH is the original creator, original reason, nine reason. Of course, the original reason is primary reason. NoopooH is nine reason and nine ether in general, and is indeed resurrectionist of the mental dead. Introduction to the Nature of Nature, Book 1, page 69 in part. The sun god Reharakti, King Abenubi, who was the reincarnation of the god Reharakti, knew what had occurred by spirit and mental telepathy, as well as having been told, and he did visit the temples of Ptah, the father of all, for verification and confirmation. King Amenubi and many of his Sabius helpers were members of the Ethiopian race. Let it be remembered. Introduction to the Nature, Nature Book 2, 129 in part. Listen to reason. Matter eventually fills in the vacuum, suction space, as the water ball contracts, grows smaller in size and more concentrated. And after the settling in and settling down by the water ball are finished, in the center of what was vacuum, brain roots of the matter begin to melt down and form an A-core formula, which is the alpha brain, the first and controlling brain of a universe. Introduction to the Nature, Nature Book 1, page 185 in part. Quarter 1 of the circle of order, the math circles. See the gestation process, the alpha nebula of a universe. You see them egg balls. Third, the balls on the perimeter of the nebula are 9 ether egg balls. Thou art the great God who didst stretch out the heavens, who makest thy disk to revolve in the body of Nut, and to enter therein thy name of Re. Thou art the fashioner of gods and men, and of everything. Listen to reason. When the suns do suffer scientific death at point 6 west, the flesh and blood gods and goddesses, as well as the spirit gods and goddesses, become Ta instead of being NoopooH, as they were before. As the suns emit 6 ether instead of 9 ether, which turns NoopooH into the powers called Ta, Ptah, now subject to sex and death, reproduces the Takandoid race, the Ethiopian race, which is another way of saying the Takandoid people, the Ta-kind people. And Ta does this before they die out and become extinct. Thus Ta, physically in the form of the African pygmy, is the race ancestral tree of the Ethiopian race. Physical Ta, the flesh and blood gods and goddesses, die out, sinks into the bowels of Mother Goddess Earth, metamorphosed, and is reborn from the waters of Indonesia on the equator in the persons of Monkey, pronounced Monkey, the race ancestral tree of original man called the Mankandoid race, which is another way of saying mankind people. The correct information found in this topic tells us why Ta in mythology and ancient Egyptian religion is called the creator of gods and men. The gods being the flesh and blood demigods and goddesses that resulted from scientific death, and the spirit gods and goddesses who descended into invisibility. Let it be remembered always and let it be known. Introduction to the Nature of Nature book. Taten is depicted in the form of a god in mummy form with a pair of horns and a disc, and a pair of plumes on his head, and the ordinary symbols of rule in his hands. Taten was a very ancient Tatinen, also Tatinen, Tatjinin, Tathanin, Tanin, Tenin, Taninu, and Tanu was the deity of primordial mound in ancient Egyptian religion. His name means risen land or exalted earth, as well as referring to the silt of the Nile as a primeval chthonic deity. Tatinen was identified with creation, both feminine and masculine. He was an androgynous protector of nature from the Memphis area, then known as Mennefer, the ancient capital of the NoopooH nome in Lower Egypt. Tatinen represented the earth and was born in the moment it rose from the watery chaos. Analogous to the primeval mound of the Benben and Mastaba and the later pyramids, he was seen as a source of food and viands, divine offers, all good things, as he realms where the deep regions beneath the earth from which everything emerges, specifically including plants, vegetables, and minerals. In the third intermediate period, him, the great hymn of Num, he is identified with the creator god Khnum, who created all that is on the potter's wheel. This fortuity granted him the titles of both creator and mother, who gave birth to all gods and father of all the gods. He also personified Egypt due to the associations with rebirth and the Nile, and was an aspect of the earth god Geb as a source of artistic inspiration, as well as assisting the dead in their journey to the afterlife. Listen to NoopooH's The Sun Sound Right Reasoning. Tatin was not an androgynous deity or hermaphrodite. Ta is myself, Ripu Ra Re, and Aten is my NoopooH, the sun's wife earth called He in ancient Kemet, and Atum in Noon science. In ancient times, the scientists of the Ethiopian race philosophically identified all space, matter, and time with the sun, earth, and moon of our solar system, and personified them as Ta, Atum, and Tahuti respectively, meaning in that order given. Introduction to the Nature Book 1, page 39. Listen to NoopooH's The Sun Sound Right Reasoning. The story of Tatum, representing Earth being born in the moment Earth rose from the watery chaos, was actually myself, Ripu Ra Re, the sun, creating planet Earth from those waters as I did all the orbs in the solar system. All true stars, the true stars of the universe, are the suns, do not have a solar system. Some suns are stabilizers and light and life givers in the universe, but those like our sun in this part of the universe are growers and centers of solar systems. When a sun that is going to have a solar system has grown big enough and strong enough, it begins to put matter and chaos surrounding it into order by forming a magnetic core, which is the center of a planet, and rolling that magnetic core against the matter of primeval chaos, which is not yet in order and surrounding the sun. A planet grows until all the matter in its immediate area has been formed into the orb. Then the power of the sun ignites the planet and releases its attraction on the planet, and the weight of the planet moves the orb away from the sun. The planet moves farther and farther away from the sun until it displaces its own weight in the atmosphere of the sun, as an object does in water. An object will sink in water until it displaces its own weight in that water. Then it stops and floats. When the planet displaces its own weight in the atmosphere as an object does in water, it is in orbit, and then it floats around the sun, its grower and controller, indefinitely. When the sun is growing the planets, it uses all matter available, and of course that includes all gases, chemicals, and elements in sight. But the compound called water is separated from the other elements because the compound known as water lessens the burning ability of the other elements by weakening their potency. Moreover, water is necessary in the forming of the satellites and is needed in the forming of flesh and blood beings. 9-ball count 4, number 32 and 33. Here is the gematria. We have Tatnin, number 38. Re the sun, number 38. Thou art the great God who didst stretch out the heavens, who makest thy disk to resolve in the body of Nut, and to enter therein thy name of Re. Thou art the fashioner of gods and men, and of everything which exists. Thou art the maker of all countries and lands, and of the great green sea. Listen to NoopooH Ray's Sound Right Reasoning. The heavens is outer space, which is vacuum. No one created space. The disk that is revolving is a solar system and galaxies that rotate in a circular manner throughout the universe that are called Nut in ancient Kemet, Egypt. The Theban recension of the Book of the Dead states that Ta performed the operation of opening the mouth on the gods with a metal instrument which he had made. That is to say, he raised them up from inertness and gave them life. And every follower of Osiris believed that Ptah would do the same for him. Ptah is depicted in the form of a bearded man with a bald head and swathed in mummy bandages, from which through an opening in front of him his hands project. From the back of his neck hangs the Menat, a symbol of physical well-being. Sexual intercourse. Listen to reason. The facts are Ptah-kind and mankind, the human race or human nation of planet Earth, originated as explained in the topic named The Human Races of Nature by Reason in Part 2 of this volume and further clarified in this topic. Ptah, the flesh and blood gods and goddesses who were NoopooH before they became Ptah, who sexually reproduced the Ethiopian race before they died out and became extinct, sank into the bowels of Mother Earth after death and became indeed as flesh and blood beings in the form of ape-man, ape-like people, and lower animals. There existed physical Ptah, the flesh and blood gods and goddesses after the sons suffered scientific death, which made the gods and goddesses subject to physical death. And there also existed spiritual Ptah, the spirit gods and goddesses after the sons suffered scientific death, which made the gods and goddesses subject to invisibility. Let it be remembered always and let it be known. Introduction to the Nature of Nature, Book 1, page 215. He stands upon the symbol of Ma'at. What is Ma'at in hieroglyphics? In hieroglyphs in Egyptian mythology, Ma'at, pronounced Ma'at, is goddess of law, morality, and justice. Ma'at was supposed the stars, seasons, and the actions of both people and gods. Her first role in Egyptian mythology was the weighing of words that took place in the underworld Dawat. The Introduction, Book 2. This book is dedicated to the Ethiopian race and all reason and its benefits, liberation and its benefits, freedom and its benefits, justice and its benefits. Listen to reason. Forgiveness and mercy as religious doctrines are anti-justice dogmas indeed forbidden in Noon society, true culture society, the same way each time that conditions are the same. Like the writer himself, everyone likes to be forgiven or given mercy for errors and also wrongnesses committed, but that was for the moon cycle. Moreover, according to the laws of nature, forgiveness and mercy do not mean that punishment for the guilty was destroyed or eliminated, but simply delayed or postponed until a later date or time, like Armageddon, to be accounted for by the guilty one or his family, descendants, or kind. The Libra cycle of New Order, which is beginning now, means balance and justice, also security for the innocent, and the Libra cycle has already begun its deliberations via NoopooH and Noon. Let it be remembered always and let it be known. Introduction to the Nature of Nature, Book 2, pages 203 and 204. Ptah Seker represents the union of Ptah, with Seker, the oldest and greatest god of that portion of the Tuat. Listen to vacuum, space, pause, sound right reasoning. The Tuat, Duat, is the underworld in Noon science. Seker is another name for Osiris, who rules alongside Tahuti in the last 6,000 years of evolution. Side note, in ancient Kemet, our ancestors called heaven the top half, Aru, or field of reeds, where Osiris rules. However, it's the reverse. The field of reeds are plants. Reed plant. Reed is a common name for several tall grass-like plants of wetlands. And in Noon, NoopooH rules in the plant zone. NoopooH plants, ZooPooH animals. Top and bottom head. Introduction to the Nature of Nature, Book 2, page 22. Osiris, Asar, rules in the bottom half for the last 2,000 years of evolution. He exists only 12,000 years in total as ghost neutrinos until the heat of the sun and earth temperature becomes hot enough to reverse ghost particles back into their prior form through natural nuclear fission. Nine North, the origination, the top half of the pygmy gods, 9 to 7 ether, field of reeds, evolution, bottom half of humans, 6 to 3 ether, the duat tuat, the spring section, the bottom half of humans, 3 ether to 6 ether, the duat tuat, and origination, the top half of the pygmy gods, 7 to 9 ether, field of reeds. And there's a 6,000-year moon cycle with Tahuti and Osiris ruling in that section on the evolution. Field of reeds equal 108. NoopooH upper top half 108. Listen to reason. The three original spirit gods of orb earth are the sun god, earth god, and moon god because they were created by brain concentration from the centers of the earth, the sun, and moon. Now to the underworlds. Universally and scientifically speaking, there are two underworlds, namely the underworld of existence and the underworld of the planets and satellites. The underworld of existence is definitely the bottom half of the smash circle of order, because it is the underworld of the top half of the order circle. The underworld of satellites and planets is the graves and other burial places of the physical dead and other subterranean beneath the surface, places such as caves and natural tunnels. But our main concern in these verses is the underworld of the planets and satellites. Let it be remembered always and let it be known. Listen to reason. Underworld powers are anti-original. The underworld gods, individual spirit powers of the satellites and planets who are the results of moon god spirit, 4 ether spirit, evolving and becoming underworld god spirit, 3 ether spirit. The underworld gods are not original because they did not originate by brain concentration of universe orbs like original sun gods, earth gods, and moon gods did. The underworld god is 3 ether spirit and the last evolutionary stage of natural ether spirit. Unless universes are going to terminate by way of 2 ether, 1 ether, and 0 ether out. When the smash circle of order evolves any load in 3 ether power, the order circle becomes a smash circle of chaos by reversing rotation from counterclockwise at 0.3 south to counterclockwise at 0.3 south. And the universes are on their way out of order existence. The underworld god of our satellite moon and our planet is indeed called by various names by various peoples in various languages by names like Osiris, Dis, Yama, Ghost, Pluto, Anubis, Serapis, and the title Judge of the Dead, etc. The underworld god is a member and part of the moon god and earth god because he and she habitate beneath and underneath the surfaces of the earth and moon. Of course, all the gods have consorts called goddesses, let it be remembered. Introduction to the Nature of Nature, Book 2, page 148 and 49. Sekka was originally a personification to death which manifests itself in providing new bodies in which the souls of the righteous were to live. Side note, this quote means human bodies are actually used for the purpose of spirit beings, especially to be killed by the most sadistic ones such as ghost god and goddess. Re, the 6th ether sun god, represents those who are living in the bottom half of the circle of order, and Thoth is also called Hermes, and Mercury, the 4 ether moon god, represents the dead. But the underworld god Osiris, also known as Pluto, the ghost spirit judge of the dead during the moon cycle, comes in on the act at the beginning of the moon cycle, the beginning of religion and the Caucasian Bible, and eventually dominates the world of peoples with religion by the help of Jasiah, the earth god, Poseidon, and Thoth, the moon god, and decline of the sun god Re by the way of the evolutionary forces of nature. Thoth was called Tahuti in Egypt of Africa. So since all spirit beings in the bottom half of the circle of order are classified as the dead, the spirit dead, then all religion, like all pantheism, is the interference of the dead into the lives of the physical living. so that the spirit dead may survive and survive well with pleasure and honor. Let it be remembered always and let it be known. Introduction to the Nature of Nature, Book 1, pages 225 and 26. Khepera, thou dost bring the Nile out from his cavern. Listen to reason. The original flesh and blood people, the original gods and goddesses of flesh and blood on planet Earth during the top half of the smart circle of order came from the original womb, the source of the Nine, that is, the Nile River in Africa of Mother Goddess Earth. Gia. Introduction to the Nature, Book 1, page 197 in part. Listen to reason. Shape 25 in this topic is half section of a planet, the top view, physical to that of planet Goddess Mother Earth. The main purpose for showing this view in graphic picture is to disclose the method and process of the origin of the flesh and blood gods and goddesses of planet Earth and the Ethiopian race on one hand and the origin of original mankind on the other hand. This depiction defines the ovary womb that produces the gods and goddesses, showing how the womb is embedded in nine ether. Introduction to the Nature of Nature, Book 2, pages 50 and 51. Listen to vacuum, space pause, sound right reasoning. The cavern being spoken of is the Nile River mentioned in the nature books that shows the channel where the pygmy gods were born from. Here is a picture below drawn by Afra Unu, Africa First. You can see the arrow on the left pointing to the channel, and you see the womb as well. Lake Victoria, source of the Nile and birthplace of the African pygmy gods, true mental cosmic peacekins in martial war times.